Hey everyone, my name is Sean, and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Ignister Archetype. This was requested by my subscriber Oscar Johnson. Oscar, thank you very much for subscribing to my channel, and hopefully you enjoy this deck profile video. And for those who are also watching it, check it out, it's actually a really fun deck. So if you want to play Ignisters yourself and you're looking to get most of the cards, you can collect some of them via the Yu-Gi-Oh campaign, through the Yu-Gi-Oh Reigns campaign via the character I. It says AI but it's pronounced I. And we've got the decks I Adore It, I Love It, and I Need It. And you can collect these cards from farming it from him, or you can go to the card shop and go to his card pack and get a lot of the cards from there too. Now, in terms of Ignisters and what they do, they remind me a lot of Salaman Greats in terms of their depth and complexity. They look very simple to play to begin with, but then you realize there are a lot of nuances and a lot of interactions between these cards the more that you experience and play with it. Because of that, for today's video, I'm going to be doing a deck profile, a breakdown of the deck by their roles, and then I'm going to show you some combos with the deck versus the AI, and then last of all, I'll go into a match and show you what this deck is like when you're playing against a real-life opponent. So Ignisters. The Ignisters in general are an archetype which uses lots of little monsters, and they all have elemental counterparts to bigger, extra deck monsters. In the anime, the main character, AI, tries to focus on all forms of special summoning. So we have synchros, rituals, fusions, XEs, links, and but that is not the way you want to build this deck. It isn't really efficient to focus on all of them, and for this build we're just going to be focusing on the synchro, the XEs, and the link monsters particularly. Now, in a nutshell, how this deck works is you are trying to link climb as fast as you can, and then you want to use your monsters to do a variety of removal and defensive effects. So here are the cards in the build, just so you get an overview. We're going to be playing 3 Achichi, 3 Balancer Lord, double Baruru, double Doyon, 3 Microcoder, 3 Picari, and then for spells we're playing 3 Idol Reborn, 3 Called by the Grave, 3 Cyanite Mining, 3 Cyanite Optimization, 3 Ignister Island, 3 Lightning Storm, 1 Monster Reborn, double Pot of Desires, 1 Terraforming, 1 Succession, and 1 Cyanite Conflict. In the extra we're doing double Wayne Pegasus, double Light Dragon, 1 Baguska, 1 Cold Talker, 1 Cold Talker Inverted, 1 Cyber's Wicked, 1 Dark Templar at Ignister, 1 Fire Phoenix, 1 Firewall Dragon Darkfluid, we're 1 Linger Rebo, double Transcode, and 1 Update Jammer. In terms of their roles, these are the starters for the deck. We have 3 Achichi. Achichi is a monster searcher. You normal summon it or special summon it to add any Ignister monster from your deck to your hand. And Picari is the spell and trap searcher. For this deck, we're going to be able to search out Ignister Island and Idol Reborn. Picari is your main starter and is what you want to get to ASAP, but Achichi is also really good as well. Also with monster searching is Cyanite Mining, Cyburst type searcher spell card to go into your deck, and then we have double Pot of Desires and 1 Terraforming. Now this deck, focusing on mostly extra deck summons, is mostly kind of like a pseudo combo deck. I don't think it's strong enough to be completely focused on a combo deck, but extenders are very important to this deck. To compare it to Salaman Great one more time, the biggest differences between Ignister monsters and Salaman Greats is Salaman Greats do effects, but they all have ways to summon themselves to the field via their effects as well. Unfortunately, the Ignisters don't have that. They can't summon themselves to the field via their effects unless you're talking about Doshin and Hiyari, right? And we're not going to be using those ones because those cards aren't very good. Now, so you are very reliant on your extender cards to get your monsters to the field to trigger their effects. And so these are the cards we're playing. We're playing double Baruru. Double Baruru is like a Foolish Burial for the deck. It sends 1 monster from your deck to your graveyard. Combines really well with your graveyard revival cards because you can just summon it to the field. Or we have Doyon, and Doyon is a card that gets you back a monster from the graveyard when it's summoned, and if you use it for a link summon, you get to get a spell or trap card back from your graveyard that has an I spell or trap card from your graveyard and add to your hand. Baruru is also a good extender because when you use this card to do a synchro summon, the other monster you use can be summoned back to the field, so you can use it again for other summons. So those are your 2 main monster Ignister extenders, but then we've got a couple of other engines here. First of all, we've got the Microcoder package. Microcoder is an insane extender for this deck. He's really good. He's also almost basically a starter, but he requires you have a monster on the field before you use the effect. And how this card works is if this card is in your hand, and you are link summoning a Code Talker monster, you can use it from your hand as part of the materials. The cards we have are Code Talker itself, Code Talker inverted, and Transcode Talker. Now, when you use microcoder this way and it is sent to the graveyard, you then get to add from your deck to your hand one Signet, spell, or trap card. And those are your targets for that are Optimization, Signet Mining, which is your starter, Optimization meaning an extender and a defensive card, and also Signet Conflict, which is a negate. So it is a very, very flexible extender for this deck. Then for the rest of the cards as your extenders, you have cards that summon monsters from your graveyard and cards that summon monsters from your hand. The cards that summon monsters from your graveyard are Monster Reborn, World Legacy Succession, and Triple Idol Reborn. This is basically Monster Reborn for Ignistas, and the fact that this is searchable via Picari's effect is insane because it is really, really easy to use. Plus it's a quick play spell, so you can do it in your opponent's turn to gain more advantage. For the cards that summon monsters from your hand, the main one is Ignista Island. This card is absolutely insane. How this card works is if you have no monsters in your main monster zone, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Ignista monster from your hand, but you can only use each attribute once per turn. Now this card isn't a hard once per turn effect, so it's only limited to doing one attribute per turn, one of each attribute per turn. So you could do Picari, Achichi, Bururu, and Doyon. You can use special summon from your hand to the field all once per turn, as long as you have no cards in the main monster zone. You want to get to this card ASAP, but we only have one terraforming, and you don't always want to search it out using Picari. So we needed some other cards that are going to help us do a similar job of repeatedly summoning our monsters, and those are Signet Optimization and Balancer Lord. Balancer Lord is a side-based monster, level 4, that says you pay 1,000 life points to get an extra normal summon. And it also, when you banish this card, it can special summon a level 4 or lower monster from your hand. And then there's also Signet Optimization, which basically says during your turn you can get an extra normal summon. It also protects your monsters, Code Talker monsters in a way, but it's not really for that effect, but it gives you extra cards. So we are not so dependent on drawing into Ignista Island. What also is nice about Ignista Island though, once you do have it, it is very hard for your opponent to get rid of this card, because if this card is in your graveyard, you can banish one Ignista monster to set it back to the field. I have literally had games where I activate this card, someone destroyed it, and then I just banished the card and put it back on the field and carried on playing. You can only do that once per turn, but it makes this card very, very resilient. So, those are the extenders for the deck. There are many other extenders you can play for this deck, but we can't play too many because you need room for removal and defensive cards in this deck, because of your the options here are good but also quite limited as well. For the extenders in the extra deck, we have Code Talker and Code Talker Inverted. Code Talker is basically there for microcoder. It isn't really the best of extenders, but it can be quite resilient, because if it points to a monster, then it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. It makes it so that it sits on the field for a while, so it makes Signet Conflict live for longer, and also gains 500 attack. Also, with its arrows being pointed up and down, it works really, really well with Transcode Talker because they can co-link to one another. Inverted Talker is a little bit better, but you don't want to summon this to the extra monster zone because of where its arrows are. Because where this card is summoned, you can special summon one side-based monster from your hand to a zone this points to. So it is a nice little extender you can use, but you have to have an arrow pointing to the main monster zone before you attempt to summon this card, so that you can summon it to the field and then get the full effect. The other extender for this deck is Cyber's Wicked. Wicked has the effect, it's a little bit complicated. I find it hard to understand this at first, but I'll make it really simple. I'm going to show you in the combo video how this works as well. But simply put, while this card is on the field, if a monster is special summoned to a zone it points to, you can then choose one Cyber's monster in your graveyard, banish it to search out Bururu. Now, ideally you want to use this with Balancer Lord to banish him and get the effect. So what will happen is you will special summon a card to Cyber's Wicked's zone, banish Balancer Lord, add Bururu, and then Balancer Lord will trigger, allowing you to summon it straight to the field. It's a nice little extender and searcher, and it's the best level 2 Cyber's monster that we can play in this deck. Then there is also Dark Template at Ignista. This is kind of like your boss monster, your win condition, and I will talk about this a little bit later on when we talk about endgame cards. And then there's Transcode Talker. He is insane. You're going to be summoning this card in every single duel, in my opinion. He is such a good extender. It's such a good way to go for game. How this card works is you can target one link 3 or lower Cyber's monster in your graveyard, except Transcode, and summon it to the zone it points to. So whatever you use to make this card is pretty much going to come back to life in a moment, making this card basically a link 1. other than instead of a link 3. It's really solid. It also protects your cards that it is co-linked with. It gives it 500 attack and it cannot be targeted. And this is a nice interaction with Cyber's Wicked and Code Talker. For if any of these two cards are co-linked with Transcode Talker, these monsters are immune to being destroyed by battle or card effects, and then with Transcode Talker co-linking them, they can't be targeted either, making these cards very hard to get rid of off the field. Moving on, we have our removal cards. Now, as you do your Ignista combos, you will naturally get into plays where you can summon out Wind Pegasus at Ignista and Light Dragon at Ignista. Wind Pegasus is for destroying spell and trap cards, and Light Dragon is for destroying monster cards. They both count the number of Ignista monsters you have on the field, and because of that, and then destroy cards equal to the amount, and because of that, they don't target the cards they're destroyed, which is a really good effect. Now, the other effects that make them a little bit different from each other is when Wind Pegasus Ignista is in your graveyard or on the field, and another card you have is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card to shuffle a card onto the deck. This, being in your graveyard, is a very good protection effect to deter your opponent from destroying your cards, and if they do, you can get rid of a card and shuffle it from the field back into the deck. Light Dragon Ignista protects monsters from being destroyed by a card effect by detaching the material from this card instead. But also it works as an extender, where if this card is on the field and a Cyber's monster does battle damage to your opponent, you can special summon one link monster from your graveyard. So it's a good little bit of recursion there. Now, the easiest place to summon these two are through Baruru and through Pikari. Baruru, as I spoke about, is a really good tuner because whatever it uses, whichever number 4 it uses to go with to make out your Wind Pegasus, it will summon it back to the field. And then Pikari can also make another Ignista monster level 4. So if it's not, so that would be Baruru, a Chi-Chi, or, no, it's just Baruru or Chi-Chi if there was one of those two on the field, because Doyon is already level 4, that will make another card level 4, allowing you to go into your rank 4 play a little bit easier. The other removal card we have here is Lightning Storm. Ignistas naturally are not a go first deck, they're a go second deck, because of your Light Dragon and your Wind Pegasus, they want to destroy cards in the field and do damage to your opponent for their benefit. So you kind of want to go second in this deck. So we're playing triple Lightning Storm because they destroy spells and traps and attack position monsters. I value versatility in Legacy of the Duelist more than anything because you never know what you're going to run into online, and there's a lot of popular decks in this game, which is really good for diversity. So I try to go for the most generic option, but you could go for many things. You could go for Kaijus, Cosmic Cyclone, Dark Ruler, evenly. Kaijus would be really nice because they could be used to link summon with. Just be careful, cards like Ignista Island and Silent Optimization say that once you've used their effects, you can only summon Cyber's monsters. And then if you use a Kaiju on the field, and you go for that option, you can't use Transcode Talker's revival effect that turn because you can only summon Cyber's monsters during the turn you use that effect. So yeah, I would love to do Kaijus, but yeah, they do clash a little bit with some of the cards in the deck. Now for defensive options, we have quite a few things. I already spoke about Microcoder being able to search out Silent Conflict, which is a negate for the deck, but then also Silent Optimization will protect one of your Code Talker or Code Talker Inverted or Transcode Talker monsters during the battle phase. It will stop your opponent from activating cards or effects until the end of the damage step, which is nice because this card sits on the field after you do the normal summon. It's nice that it has an effect like that, but you're not relying on it, if that makes any sense. But it's nice that it does a little bit of something instead of nothing at all. We're playing Free Call by the Grave. You do a lot of searching with this deck, so negating hand traps like Ash will be really good. But also because a lot of your monsters activate on the field, your monsters are very vulnerable to things like Veiler, Ogre, Infinite Impermanence, and other similar kind of hand traps. So Call by the Grave kind of helps protect you a little bit from that. Not from impermanence, I know, but a card that can protect you from impermanence is Lingeribo. Lingeribo, while this card is on the field, your opponent activates a trap card. You can tribute this card to negate that card effect, and if you do, banish that card. And then if this card is in your graveyard, you can tribute one at any monster that will special summon from the extra deck to summon this card back to the field. I don't really use Lingeribo that much. I just use it to put have an arrow pointing down to the main monster zone. But it does work really nice with Doyon, because when Doyon is used as link material for a Cyber's monster, you can add an A card back from your deck to your graveyard to your hand. So if you don't have any other monsters in the field, you just go to Lingeribo and then you trigger this effect, and then you're probably going to get an extender for either Island or Idle Reborn. So yeah, Lingeribo is not bad, and it also kind of threatens your opponent from activating their trap cards until you summon Wind Pegasus, and then you could just pop it with Wind Pegasus on the field. I've talked about how these guys protect each other. The only other extra deck monster we have here to talk about is Baguska. Yeah, like I said, you don't really want to go first with this deck, you want to go second, but you have to have an option in Legacy of the Duelist. If you're going to go first, you can't just do nothing, otherwise you're probably going to get OTK'd. So Baguska is pretty solid, 2 level 4s on the field, just make it. Yeah, but it's not your goal really for this deck. But there are so many other options, guys, for these generic things. Like if you don't want to play Call by the Grave, you can feel free to play other hand traps. You can feel free to play things like Dynamiscus, Torrential Tribute, some Solemns. It's really whatever you think is going to be most appropriate for your situation. I just wanted to go for flexibility because you don't know what you're going to run into. And then we've got the endgame cards here, which are your game-winning cards. We have the Update Jammer, Transcode Talker combo. We have Firewall Dragon Darkfluid and Fire Phoenix at Inista. Inista is quite easy to understand. If you do damage with, if you attack a card, you can choose to forego your battle damage to burn your opponent for damage equal to this card's attack. So it's good for doing a lot of burn to your opponent quickly. Also, when this card is destroyed by a card effect, during the next turn it will summon itself back to the field. This can be you can do this yourself with a Chi-Chi's effect. Chi-Chi has a graveyard effect where when your Cyber's monster attacks, you can destroy it if you want to. You don't really use it very often. I don't think I ever have actually practically used it. But if you do find yourself in a situation where you summon this and you want to destroy a card on the field, destroy one monster on the field, you can do that, I guess. Transcode Talker and Update Jammer is a really good combo where you need 3 monsters on the field. Or a level 1 and just a way to make a link 2 and a link 3, and then you make Update Jammer first, and then you use your Update Jammer and another monster to make Transcode Talker, and then Transcode Talker will Update Jammer's effect will trigger, giving Transcode Talker the ability to attack twice, and then Transcode Talker can revive Update Jammer back to the field, and then Update Jammer, if you want to, can negate all other card effects on the field until the end damage step, and reduce every monster's effect back to their original attack and defense. So it really does help for you to go for game while negating all of the card effects on the field. And then Darkfluid, Firewall Dragon Darkfluid, I want to tell you what this does in action. And so let's go and do that now and go show you some combos. So I'm actually going to go to this here. I realized last time I was getting audio come through. I just need to mess around with that sound. Is there a way to turn off themes? Audio, home screen music, that's it. Get rid of that. Right, cool. So now we do the combos so we don't have the music in the background. And here are the combos here. So first, this is how you OTK using your Dark Inista and your Firewall Dragon Fluid. So playing against the AI here, it's doing whatever. I'm going to fast forward a bit. It's just doing a Pendulum Summon. And we're going to start on my turn here. And yep, he sets a card and we're going to start here. So we're going second. Opponent's got a board. This is what you can do. We're going to start off with Signet Optimization to get the free normal summon. We're going to activate the effect, or we're actually going to hold on to it for now. We're going to save it for later on. And just thinking about what to do here. We're going to play Plot of Desires first, see what cards we draw into, and see if my opponent has any kind of response to it. We're playing against the Aya, so they most likely wouldn't, but you know, you want to kind of bait those cards out first. And we have Call by the Grave anyway, so don't have to worry too much. We drew into 2 copies of Idle Reborn, which is good. So Picari will now search for Inista Island. So we have both cards added from our deck to our hand. Then we're going to use Picari to make a Code Talker monster. We don't need to make Lingeribo just yet. So we're going to make Code Talker itself, not the inverted version, because we're summoning it to the actual monster zone. And we use Microcoder from our hand, and there comes out Code Talker. So that's how Code Talker and Microcoder works. It's really simple to do. It then triggers its effect and we do a search. And we want to go for Signet Mining because we want more monsters in our hand. So we're going to get that card. And we've got 2 copies of I Reborn, so we might as well get rid of one of them. So we're going to get rid of Idle Reborn, discard that card. And then we're going to add to our hand probably a Chi-Chi. I would probably go and get... it depends on your hand and your situation. A Chi-Chi will get you more monsters. And we've got ways to summon more monsters from our deck to from our hand to the field. So Chi-Chi is definitely the best option here. I'm going to activate Island though. Interaction between optimization and island. The best way to run these cards is if you have a choice to choose between island and optimization, always go for island first, because if you find yourself in a situation where you need to summon another monster but you have a card in the main monster zone, optimization will always be live and ready for you to use, whereas island requires that you have an empty main monster field. So now I'm going to use optimization's effect to summon up Baruru, and then Baruru is going to hit the field. And now that we've got 3 monsters on the field, we're ready to go into our combo. So the combo for Darkfluid to OTK your opponent requires that you can have 3 monsters on the field, doesn't matter what they are, also, to summon Dark Templar, but then also between your field or the graveyard, have Baruru and Pikari between the two. They could be on the field, it could be in the graveyard, as long as they are on the field after this effect resolves. So we summon that Dark Templar, and now what we have to do is we have to special summon a monster to a zone it points to. So I'm going to go for Doyon here, and that will hit the field, and then Dark Templar's effect will trigger. You can then summon as many, and Doyon as well. We're going to get a Chi-Chi because we want to keep the other 2 in the graveyard, and we want to summon them to the field. Dark Templar will allow us to summon as many monsters as possible to zones that you have empty, that it can point to, and so we have 2 empty, so you get 2 monsters. That's the most amount of monsters you ever get back. And now we can go into our Synchro Summon, then our XE Summon. So you first always want to go for your Synchro Summon play. You want to use Baruru and a level 4. Doesn't matter. Ideally Pikari. Well, it doesn't matter which one. Use the one whose effect is negated. If it was summoned by Dark Templar, its effect will be negated. So when it comes back via Baruru's effect, it will have its effect live again. So we summon out Wind Pegasus at Inista, and now we're going to use Wind Pegasus' effect. We have 4 other Inista monsters on the field, and so we can destroy 1 to 3 cards. And then we get rid of his whole entire back row. And now we have 2 level 4s on the field. If we didn't have 2 level 4s, say it wasn't a Doyon, we could have had like a Chi-Chi. We instead could have used Pikari's effect to make it level 4. But because it was level 4 already, we didn't need to. So now we're going to summon that Light Dragon at Ignista. And now, just like when Pegasus took care of the back row, we're going to use Ignista, Light Dragon to get rid of the front row. So we detach 1 card and then we destroy it. So now the field is nice and wide open for you to go into your OTK. Of course, depending on the situation you're in, this won't always happen. It's not always going to be the case where you can just destroy and clear your opponent's monsters via these effects. But if you can, you might as well go for it. So we have a Link 3 on the field and 2 monsters on the field, so we can go into a Link 5. One of the only Link 5 monsters on the field, in the game. Now, how Firewall Dragon Darkfluid works is for every type of Ignista card from the extra that you have in the graveyard, whether you get a Ritual, a Fusion, an Xyz, or I'll go back to that and show you, be it a Ritual, a Fusion, an Xyz, a Synchro, or I'm missing one, Link, I think. No, it doesn't Link, doesn't count. It will gain a counter, kind of like the same way Borrow Sword, Savage Dragon gets counters when it is summoned as well. Now, in our build of the deck, the most counters you will ever get is 2. And for every counter that is on this card will get 2500 additional attack during the battle phase. So in our build of the deck, he will go from 3000 to 8000 attack. And that's what's going to help us OTK. Now, what is also really nice about Darkfluid is if your opponent uses an effect during the battle phase, you can then negate it by removing a counter, and then he will get to attack again as well. So it's a really good game winning card. It's very expensive, but it's really fun to use. So that is the combo for Fire Dragon Darkfluid, by going from your Templar into summoning that out. That's the best way to do it. Then we have another combo here. This is more just a transcode update jammer combo. We've seen this before. I've talked about it in Sun Emigrates particularly, but in case you are new to the game and you have never ever seen it before, I'm going to just show you how it works and how a couple of other cards work together. So this is how Balance of Lord works. You summon it to the field, it gives you a pay 1000 life points, you get an extra normal summon. You don't have to normal summon right away. After you've activated it, you can use it whenever you want to. So but your next normal summon will use the effect up. So yeah, but that doesn't really matter. So just keep that in mind. That's up to you. Balance of Lord is really good. Then we're going to play Desires. Desires being another really good card just to extend your plays, get more cards. And then we're going to go for another microcoder play. But this time, I think first what we're going to do, just looking at what's banished, we banished both our Doyon, so that's important to note. This time what we're going to do is we're going to summon that Lingaribo first. And Lingaribo is going to have his arrow pointing to the bottom left. And that's going to give us an extra monster zone on the main monster zone part. And so now, instead of going for Code Talker, I'm going to go for Code Talker Inverted. Code Talker Inverted is definitely a better extender than Code Talker. So it comes to the field. And then, if this card is link summoned, you can special summon one Zybus monster from your hand to the zone this card points to. So we're also going to get Microcoder's effect. Microcoder is going to grab Signet Mining or Optimization for me. And then we're going to use Code Talker to summon up Baruru. Balancer Lord is only on once per turn for each effect, so you can't summon it repeatedly, unfortunately. But Baruru is going to come to the field, it's going to trigger its effect. And now we're going to send a card from our deck to the graveyard. And so we send a Chi-Chi. Now, with a Chi-Chi in the graveyard, Baruru works really, really nicely with graveyard spells. So with Idol Reborn there, we're going to use that. And now what I want to show you is how Cyber's Wicked works, just to get your head around it. Cyber's Wicked is a link to, but when it hits the field, it doesn't do anything until you get a card summoned into it. Idol Reborn being a quick play spell is a really, really good card to use that for, and we're going to target a Chi-Chi. And I actually messed up here. I wanted to summon that to Cyber's Wicked, but I screwed up. I was just like, yeah, I don't know. I just hit the wrong button. But it doesn't matter anyway. We've still got more special summons in us. We're going to use Signet Optimization to summon the Picari that we just added to our deck to our hand via a Chi-Chi's effect. So Picari's going to summon, bring it over there. Then Picari will trigger. Oh, I've already used Picari effect, never mind. Then we're going to make Update Jammer. And Update Jammer is going to be summoned to a zone that Cyber's Wicked points to. And so now Wicked's effect will trigger. So this is how it works. You activate the effect. You can banish one Cyber's monster in your graveyard. I'm going to banish Balancer Lord. If you don't, go for a card you're not going to bring back again. Something like, I don't know, a Code Talker monster, like a Code Talker or Code Talker Inverted. You're not going to bring those back really. Even Transcode is hard to summon back, so feel free to banish that. Ideally, you want to keep your Ignistas around. And then we added, I'll go back a bit, I talked over it. We added Banished Balancer Lord to add Baruru to our hand. Baruru got added to our hand, and then Balancer Lord triggers to summon it from our hand to the field. And so Baruru is going to hit the field and it's going to trigger its effect. It's a nice little searcher thing. We already used Baruru's effect, so we won't get the trigger again, but it gives us a free monster to do. Now we're going to go into Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker is going to use Update Jammer and Baruru. It's going to be co-linked with our Wicked. We're not going to keep Wicked on the field for long because Wicked isn't really good for attacking with. It's good for protecting your cards though, because anything Wicked points to cannot be destroyed by card effects. So between Wicked and Transcode Talker cannot be destroyed by card effects, and it cannot be targeted, which is really, really nice protection. But we're going to go one step a little bit further. I wouldn't normally make this play, but I just wanted to show you the effect because we're doing demonstrations here. And I'm going to make our Fire Phoenix Ignista. I'll be honest with you, I don't summon this card that much. Only if I'm playing against an opponent that's playing like very defensively, like someone who's got defense position monsters, will I summon this card on the field just to do a bit of burn. Because he's co-linked to Transcode Talker, he's got 500 attack boost as well. And therefore, when we use his effect to burn, I'm not going to use a Chi-Chi's effect, but I could use a Chi-Chi to blow up Phoenix to destroy one of the monsters, but there's no point of doing that. If the monster was bigger than 5 Phoenix, I guess I could do it that way, but in this situation, there's no point. By destroying that card, we burnt our opponent for 2800 damage. Then we use Update Jammer to destroy the other monster. We attack directly with Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker is protected by Signet Optimization. And then we attack again with Transcode Talker. And Transcode Talker plus Update Jammer alone is 8100 damage. So if you attack directly with them, that's normally game. But in most situations, if you've broken your opponent's board, it can do a lot of damage too. So guys, we're going to wrap this video up. We're going to go into some gameplay and talk about how to play this deck against real life opponents. Okay, so I've skipped the first turn of this duel. It lasted about 7 minutes and it was just my opponent doing a synchro based combo. As you can see, he had a board full of combo, but we're going to get rid of it all using our Lightning Storm. Now, this deck doesn't play any hand traps or anything, so going first, because you're going second, you just really want to break your opponent's board as quickly as you can. And if you can't do it for a card like a Lightning Storm, then you have your Wind Pegasus and you have your Light Dragon that can do it for you. Now, with the hand that we have, we've only got one starter and everything else is an extender, so we really need to kind of fix that. So Silent Manning really had to go through at that point. If we got negated, then this duel would be very, very different. We'd have to kind of drag it out a bit and wait to draw into more cards. But fortunately, that didn't happen, so Silent Manning went through. And because we have a card, we have Island in our hand and Silent Optimization, we have a way to summon multiple monsters from our hand to the field, and therefore the best card to go for is a Chi-Chi. If you didn't have one of those two cards available to you, then your better card would have been to go for Picari, because then it will search another extender like Idle Reborn, and then that will get you more monsters to the field through link climbing. So Chi-Chi's activated, and then we searched that Picari. And Ignis the Island is so good, the way that it can summon multiple monsters via its effect, and it isn't a hard once per turn. So we're going to take advantage of that and use it again. But first, we're going to use our Chi-Chi and our microcoder to make our Code Talker. Now, what I really like about microcoder is because you use it as a resource for a link 2, but then it pays for itself. It kind of turns Code Talker, if you're talking in terms of numbers, purely numbers, it's kind of like Code Talker is a link 1, like a link Karibo. Yeah, it requires a bit more setup, but it's really worth it in my opinion, because you're only losing one card. Well, you're not really losing a card at all, you're kind of breaking even, to be honest. So it is a really effective way, plus you get to search out what kind of ways you want to carry in your play. Now we already have Silent Optimization and Silent Mining, so those are the only two cards. I didn't bother going for the trap card in this situation. I don't think I was playing it in this deck actually when I was recording this video, but yeah, it is what it is. So Island activated again. We summoned up Picari, so we still haven't used our normal summon this turn, which is really nice. And then we search out Idle Reborn. Idle Reborn is going to allow us to summon more cards in the graveyard. But I'm trying to think about what ways we want to extend our play here. Now, we have a link 2 and a 1 on the field. So, we can kind of almost go into a Transcode Talker. But to do the update jammer effect combo, you need to use monsters with levels, I believe. I think it has to be level 4 lower monsters, if I remember. So, using link monsters doesn't work for update jammer summon. So we would have to summon something out first. So first, what I'm going to do instead is go for Cyber's Wicked in order to thin our deck a bit more and do a bit more searching. So Cyber's Wicked has been summoned. Now, unfortunately, we don't have Balancer Lord available to us, but you can still use Wicked's effect. It just means you won't get to special summon a card via Balancer Lord's effect. But we have other ways to summon cards to our field, so it isn't too bad. So now I'm going to activate Idle Reborn to get back Picari to the field. I'm going to point it to a zone that Wicked points to, so to either zone 2 or zone 3. Then Wicked will trigger, allowing us to banish one of our Cyburst monsters in our graveyard. We're going to get rid of Code Talker or Microcoder, either or. Neither of them are going to come back anyway, so we'll get rid of either one of them. And then we add Baruru to our hand. And then we can't use Ignis the Island to summon Baruru, but we can use Optimization, or we could just normal summon it actually. We haven't normal summoned yet, so why not? We'll normal summon Baruru, Baruru will activate, and Baruru will send an Ignis monster from our deck to the graveyard. The only one we haven't used so far is Doyon, so we might as well get that. This deck reminds me a lot of how Satella Knights play. Did you guys ever play Satella Knights or Gadgets, where every time you summon you get more benefits for it? I really did like that about this deck. I had a lot of fun learning how to play this deck. Really glad someone requested it. I think this deck is super underrated. I don't think it's meta defining just yet, but it gets a lot of support over the last 2 years since Link Evolution's release from Eternity Code, and it's got a set coming up in the near future that's going to give it even more support. That's supposed to push it to a top tier status. So Ignistas I'm really glad I learnt this deck now, because this could be a really strong contender in Master Duel. So we use our Wicked and our Update Jammer to go into Transcode Talker. Transcode Talker will hit the field and Update Jammer will activate from the graveyard. and then it will give you your Transcode Talker double attack, and then we're going to use Transcode Talker's effect to bring it back from the graveyard and co-link it to this card. Now you don't have to go for Update Jammer. It is obviously the nice way to do so, but you can always just go Transcode Talker Code Talker, which is a nice link as well. There is you have a 2800 monster and a 2300 monster on the field, so that is in total 6,100. Yep, 6,100. But with this combo, we do 8,100 damage instead. So we attack with Update Jammer. Before calculation, we're not going to use the effect of Update Jammer. That is what that is, if you're wondering what why that prompt was coming up. And then we're going to attack with Transcode Talker once. That's going to swing for 2,800, bring an opponent down to 2,700. And now we are just a little bit over. So we're going to do another attack with Transcode Talker. Not going to use a Chi-Chi's effect. And that is going to do enough damage for game. And that's just a real quick example of how Ignistas work. Really, really fun deck. Really enjoyed learning this deck out. I think it's really fun. Check it out yourself. I think you guys enjoy it too. And yeah, as always guys, thank you for listening to my video and watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate that. I am currently working on a list of requests, so feel free to get your requests in. And thank you as always. I'll see you soon. Take care.